is Alex D. I'm a sports performance intern coach at Marquette University for the summer of 2019. Today I'm going to be talking about the sport trampoline and the annual plan I came up for it.
Hit a
So
earlier
this
two
is
routine.
what trampoline
Gets
is.
it
If you're
right
not
here.
familiar with the actual
She
sport
can nudge
itself.
56. That's what she'll need.
This is
The
actually
only
from the last
routine that does
Olympics.
count for
This
her
routine right
today,
here won her
ultimately.
the gold medal.
Enormous pressure around this Canadian. The only gold medal from 2012 for Canada was Rosanna McLennan's.
She's got plenty of difficulty. She has a 15 up her sleeve from qualification, and that's the hardest routine we've seen from anybody. She's got to hit it perfectly this time. Took a long time to prepare her jumps earlier. Not so this time. This is looking strong. She's holding their breath. She's got to keep the height going now. Looking strong. Can she finish it off? It's good.
That's much better from McLennan. A couple of jumps towards the end of the trampoline, but the Canadian fans really think she might have done it again. From Toronto.
Okay, so the origins of trampoline. So in the 1930s, George Nissen was watching trapezes. Like once they fell off the rings, they would land in this like net that basically like would spring them back up, and they would kind of do some jumps off of it as like practice for that. But so he was a gymnast at the University of Iowa and saw this and thought that the trampoline or the springs or whatever that the trapeze artists were using could actually help him with his own practice. So what he did was he came up with a trampoline by like getting some like crude iron stuff, a canvas bed, and then some rubber springs, and basically came up with the first trampoline. So at first it didn't have the name trampoline. It was basically just like, he called it a jumping apparatus. It didn't come up with the name trampoline until he went to Mexico and heard the word trampoline, which is springboard in Spanish, and then he changed it a little bit to make the word trampoline. So then the trampoline didn't really do like a ton until World War II, when it was used with pilots so they could orientate themselves in the air. Then after World War II, Nissen helped found the International Trampoline Federation. Then in 1964, it became part of the World Championships. In 1981, it became part of the World Games. The cool thing about the World Games is it's meant for like sports that aren't Olympic sports, so it's just a bunch of like random sports basically. But the thing with trampoline is it's one of 6 sports that's in the World Games and the Olympics. Normally once it goes into the Olympics, it gets discontinued from the World Games. But then in 1999, the International Trampoline Federation joined the International Gymnastics Federation, and then in 2000 it became an Olympic sport. So the basic rules of trampoline, in the video you saw the athlete like start by getting a few jumps to get to a certain height. So they have 60 seconds after presenting on the trampoline to get to the height that they want before they start the routine. Once the routine starts, they only have 10 contacts with the trampoline bed, and then once their 10th contact, they get 1 out bounce. The out bounce was the bounce at the end that you saw where she gets to control her height and then like stop on the trampoline. Once the routine's over, the stopping, they have to be finished on their feet and they have to hold for 3 seconds before they can move off. So the scoring, good form and execution. There are 3 basic like positions that they're in. There's piped, tucked, and straight. So this is a picture of a straight where their legs and hands are straight, their toes are pointed, and their feet are together. This picture is piped where their legs are straight, but their hands are by their feet and their arms are also straight. And then tucked is basically just like a cannonball where their knees are tucked into their chests. Difficulty, it's based off of basically how many like tucks and turns and flips you get per touch off of the trampoline. So basically, the more you have, the more difficult it is. The variety of elements is just, you can't repeat any skill. So like a flip in the tucked position is different than a flip in the straight position. And also you can't repeat your skills from like a qualifying round to a finals round. Continuous flow is just You have to do a skill in between each jump. You can't stop on a trampoline. You can't take extra jumps in order to like regain height. You can't also get a spot from like somebody on the side. You can't touch your coach or anything besides the actual trampoline itself. Let me talk about the right ending, where you have to be standing still. The trampoline has to be stopped, and you have to hold for a few seconds at the end. So for this annual plan, we're saying that our athlete is going to be preparing for the FIG World Cup and the FIG World Championships. These are two of the very important qualifiers for the Olympics for next year. So just a basic overview of our annual plan. So off season is going to be where we're going to be learning a bunch of new skills. It's going to be our adaptation and physical prep stage. So it's pretty much just going to be endurance activities, body weight exercises, just to kind of get them back in the flow of moving. Preseason is going to be where we get our most strength and power development. It's going to be a lot of heavy conditioning. There's going to be a lot more like actual trampoline exercises here, and they're going to be working on a lot of flexibility as well. So in early season is going to be taking some of the strength that we built from the preseason and moving into skill-specific development, and then we're also going to be gaining more strength there as well. The peak season is just going to be taking all the strength that we've built, trying to maintain it, and then turn all of our routines into quality, full routines. We're going to be practicing a lot more for like the pressure of like competing in front of thousands of people. And then they're also going to be making sure their aerobic capacity is still where it is, because they're going to be jumping 10 plus times in a row, so that's going to wear them out. And then postseason is basically just for them to recover actively. They're going to be jumping so much throughout the time that their legs are basically going to be shot by the end of this, so they need as much time as they can to fully recover. So testing for this sport, since it is basically just a jumping sport, we're not really going to be testing like back squat or bench press. It is important to be strong in the sport, but our strength to body weight ratio needs to be high, so we can't really have them gain a ton of muscle from like being huge and being able to lift a ton of weight. So we're pretty much just going to be doing a jump conditioning circuit. So they're going to start with a vertical jump, then do a 3-jump test, and then they're going to do like jump circuits, so basically like speed plyos, like box jumps, like that type of thing, so they can fatigue themselves. And then after a couple of circuits of that, we're going to come back and do the exact same vertical jump, 3-jump test, and see if they drop off at all. So injuries in this sport, the majority of the injuries are just from actually falling off the trampoline itself. Otherwise, there are some knee and ankle injuries like sprains and tears. So we're primarily going to be doing isometrics and eccentrics to help with that. Eccentrics to help absorb all the force of the landings of the jumps, and then isometrics to just strengthen the tendons and ligaments around these joints. So a bit of our off-season quick. The goal is to increase the lean muscle and the strength to body weight ratio that we talked about. So the first endurance phase is pretty much just going to be a high volume, low intensity, a lot of stretching, introducing the new skills. The strength phase is going to increase the volume and intensity as before, but it's still going to be pretty moderate. A lot more stretching still, practicing the skills for the season, and then a lot of core training, because it's important for them to be able to control their body up while they're in the air. Preseason, we're going to do a little bit of triphasic stuff because it's important for them to absorb a bunch of forces eccentrically and isometrically, so they can apply it to the dynamic of jumping. And they're also going to be doing a lot more stretching still, because it's very important for them to be super flexible. I put Olympic lifting under skill-specific training because Olympic lifts like cleans are basically just jumping with weight, and their sport is jumping. So if you're able to jump, if you're able to Olympic lift and do it with power, their jump height overall on the trampoline will increase. And then we have yoga and ballet. Ballet is important in this sport too, because it helps them with their posture. They always want to keep their legs straight in the sport, and in ballet, they always have their toes pointed, their feet are always together, their legs are straight, everything like that. So it really equates to what they're doing in their sport. As the sport goes on, though, we're going to decrease ballet because it's going to work the exact same like foot muscles and everything. And if they're doing too much ballet, it's going to hinder their performance through their actual sport. So it's just a quick 4 weeks of what one of our days would be. So we have the eccentric emphasis up top, and then basically just overall strength down at the bottom. We just want to have an overall strong athlete, so then when they're in the season, they can keep their strength. So we want to build that up early. So in season, going to take all the strength and flexibility and bring it into the actual sport. We're still going to be doing the Olympic lifts and isometric for the prehab stuff. We're switching from the stuff before to do Pilates now. Pilates is going to be good for the body weight and body control stuff. And we're also going to be stressing sleep, hydration, and nutrition, because we know as athletes, those three have just important benefits as like actually lifting in their sport. So here's another day. Here we would be focusing in cleans, would be a lot on power, a lot less volume here than it was before because it's more in season. And then post-season is basically just a time for them to recover. We're bringing back ballet now that there's less actual jumping, still yoga, a lot of stretching, and of course nutrition is important. So, any questions?
So I was just kind of curious, how often do they compete in seasons, like weekly?
So there are quite a few competitions. I was looking on the FIG website, and there's probably 10 throughout the year that they can do, but I was looking it up, and they really don't compete in that many, just because they want to make sure that they're as fresh as possible for the competitions, because the majority of them are like Olympic qualifiers.
Okay.
So they don't want to be overly fatigued for every single one of them and then not qualify for the Olympics. So that's why I picked these two, because they're two of the most important, in my opinion, of the qualifying ones.
Okay. Andy?
So I know like some like gymnastics, usually there's like multiple different kinds of things you do. So is it common for people to do like trampolines and rings, or is it usually just trampoline?
I didn't get into too much of that, but there is like pairs. So they, instead of just like a single trampolinist, there's like two of them on two different trampolines, and they basically are like synchronized. So I know some of them do that, but I didn't look into seeing if they compete in other gymnastics related sports or events.
Okay.
Is the eight, like I know like your standardized gymnastics like bar beam, that sort of thing, it's like people who are qualifying for this are getting like younger and younger. Is this like a similar age range with trampoline?
It's not as young as regular gymnastics, because I know like some of them are like 14, 15 now.
Yeah.
No, it's not that young. I think the one in the video that I showed, that was her second or third in a row winning the Olympics. So I mean, they're every 4 years. So she was obviously a little older than 14 or 15.
So would you say that like because there's more of like a spring assistance to it, it's not purely like joint impact, but there's a little bit more like longevity to it?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, there still is a lot of forces they need to absorb, and for the amount of times they're jumping, but the trampoline will help with that and help their knees and ankles and joints like last a lot longer.
Yeah, piggybacking off that question, because as you alluded to, like in your training, you've got a lot of eccentric and isometric work because of the trampoline bed flexes and then returns that energy to the athlete. And they're in that isometric position for much longer. What role do you think plyometric training, particularly lower body, has for trampolinists? Is it as important to you as, for example, gymnasts, where it's more of a harder surface? And what do you think about that in terms of plyometric training for this sport?
Well, like you said, there will be more time in the isometrics, but there still is a lot of like trying to have the spring of them, like their own like body able to do it. So there is less plyometrics, I think, that needs to be done, but it's still I think important for them to be reactive and be able to get as much force out of the jump as possible. So.
Good. Any more questions? All right. Good job. All right, well done. Oh, sorry. We do have one more. We do have one more question from Emily. She says, "Should the trampoline athletes train on unstable surfaces?" Question mark.
I think it could be beneficial, especially like a single leg like balance type thing, where they're trying to make sure their ankles are extra stable. I personally haven't really been on a trampoline myself that much, so I don't know like how unstable they are while you're like just standing on them. But yeah, it definitely would help with balance, coordination, and just overall like joint strength. So, thanks, Emily.
Good stuff. All right.